I have put together these 5 steps, which have worked with the couples that I work with, and they're perfect for people who just want to enjoy their love and their life together. The goal is to take good care of your relationship so that you've got a buddy to go through the world with. My name is Laura Silverstein. I am an author of Love is an Action Verb, and also I'm a certified Gottman Couples Therapist, and I've been helping couples find happiness since Ronald Reagan was president. We're going to start with a really classic piece of relationship advice that you'll hear all the experts say, myself included, and that's respect. We want to have a partner who wants us to thrive. They have our best interest at heart. They feel sad when we're sad, and they celebrate our successes and commiserate our challenges together. This is a central, necessary part of any healthy relationship. If there's an underlying lack of mutual respect, that's a pretty big red flag for your relationship. If you don't feel like your partner wants you to be happy, that's a concern. Connect with a licensed professional to just check in about whether this is a healthy relationship for you. I also have a video that's about emotional abuse and contempt, and I will link that in the description. And now it's time to talk about pie. Honestly, I'm only half kidding. We get to talk about pie charts. Yay, pie charts. If you don't love a good pie chart, this might not be a good video for you. What we're looking at here is from the research of the Gottman Institute. We know that healthy relationships have 20-to-1 positive to negative ratio. This chart represents day-to-day life. It's not romantic vacation, but it's not in the middle of a fight either. Okay, so you'll see that sliver of 5%, and that's negative interactions. And the positive interactions don't have to be huge, grand gestures. The positive interactions include things like Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, saying you're sorry, expressing warmth, allowing forgiveness and grace, all those things. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this, but it's pretty self-explanatory that positivity is a really good foundation for a healthy relationship because you're focusing on what you love about each other, not about the problems. However, notice that isn't a 0. That's 5% because you also need to address the problems in a relationship so that it's authentic. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The couples who in the research who ended up getting divorced or expressing high levels of relationship dissatisfaction had an equal proportion of positive to negative interactions on a day-to-day basis. So for every insult, there was a compliment. For every smile, there was a expression of frustration or irritation. The negative interactions are things like blames, the 4 horsemen, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later. Sometimes people think that when they are over here in the negative interactions, they feel like that's good. They say things like, I'm just being honest. I want an authentic relationship. And they feel like expressing that negativity is an opportunity for their partner to learn what they need. They're setting boundaries, and it can be very good. The problem is the way that's expressed. So what the healthy couples are doing differently from the unhealthy couples is that they still are addressing those negative interactions. They still are expressing their truth, asking for what they need, setting boundaries, but they're doing it in the context of you're still a great person who I love and admire. And even though it's during conflict, there's still more positivity than negativity. And you might wonder, how on earth does anybody actually do that in the real world? And here is the secret for how they do this. It's not about them being born with like Herculean strength and patience or anything like that. It comes to this chart, which is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And you'll see that here you have negative behaviors on the left, and then on the right we have how to clearly, respectfully, and directly express negativity in a way that's constructive. I have a 4-step course on each one of these 4 horsemen and how to battle each one separately and what to do instead of the criticism and the defensiveness. But the issue isn't necessarily just having the communication skills alone. you are probably already a pretty great communicator. My guess is that if you take my course, it's going to hopefully feel like review. Yes, this makes sense, or I know that I should talk this way, or maybe I already talk this way in a business setting, or when I am talking to somebody I don't know very well. The issue is that we don't use those skills when we're hurt and angry and when we're talking to our partner, because we get sloppy with our primary romantic partner. So the issue is this. When you have that negativity, which will happen in all relationships because 100% of couples have conflict, and conflict is about diversity. Conflict is not about problems that need to be shoved away. It's about how do we integrate our differences and hear and understand each other for who we are. So the way to manage those differences has to happen when both people are calm. So this brings us to step 3. Talk about your differences when you're calm. It's as simple as that. When you wait until you're calm, you're going to be able to use all those wonderful communication skills that you use in other parts of your life. So that's step 3. Okie dokie. This next one is everybody's favorite. And the reason for that is because I said before, working on your relationship doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be painful. I know flowcharts might not be fun for everybody, but this next one is about feeling relaxed, content, and comfortable. It's about pleasure. And yes, that's right. I am talking about intimacy, because how can we have the world's fastest relationship course without talking about intimacy? Intimacy is the glue that holds relationships together. And we have a whole bunch of new wonderful research from Emily Nagoski, who's absolute brilliant sex educator. And I've learned so much from her in the last few years that has turned my work with couples completely upside down. And what we know is that human beings crave connection. We want to be liked and loved. And we live in a world where we're battling a whole lot of negative stereotypes, societal expectations of what we're supposed to be like, what we're supposed to look like, what our bodies are supposed to feel and do. And on the other hand, we want reassurance that we're good enough, that we're okay, that we're desired and lovable and attractive. So that puts a heck of a lot of pressure on a primary romantic relationship, but it all comes down to this one central fallacy, and that's all about the expectation of desire. There's an expectation that desire means this sudden, overwhelming urge to connect. Now, some people do have that, and that's great. Some people don't have that, or some people do have desire, but it's complicated. What if I don't feel it in 5 minutes and I express it and then I have to hurt somebody's feelings, so they squash it down? Dr. Gottman talks about how men are like microwaves and women are like slow cookers when it comes to desire. I've met lots of female microwaves and vice versa. The issue is when there's a mismatch, and it's about pacing and intensity in terms of that internal desire that one feels. The second one is that it's this spark that lights up an explosion of passion. And number 3 is that there's an expectation that this is based on pure, visceral, physical attraction. It's not that easy, you guys. It can mean so many things, and it's really can be quite complicated and nuanced. The reality of desire is that it doesn't always come on cue. You can't snap a finger and bring it there instantaneously. Number 2 is that it's often eclipsed by tension. Physical tension is not conducive to relaxation and connection. Number 3 is that couples often think that there's a problem in terms of desire, and that feeling of something's wrong or bad, it's just not very sexy to feel like there's something wrong or terrible. So what we know is there is a solution to all of this mismatched, and it's actually way simpler than you might expect. The solution is pleasure. So pleasure is about enjoyment that happens moment to moment rather than frequency. Number 2 is that pleasure is more about safety rather than pressure. And number 3 is that it can be enjoyed simultaneously. There's not this sense of somebody has to speed up to feel something that they don't feel, or feeling worried that somebody else doesn't feel something. Pleasure just has less judgment connected to it. So number 4 is to focus on pleasure when you're talking about your intimacy and your relationship, instead of focusing on desire or frequency. Step number 5. What do you think the final step is? I want you to think about this for a second, because it's really important, and it's funny that we always forget it. A lot of my couples forget it. I forget it too. Let's recap what we've learned so far. Okay, so respect we've talked about, positivity, conflict, intimacy, and then the question is, what's the 5th one? What is this all about? Why are we doing this? What do we want from being in love? And if you're thinking about fun, then you got the question right. Fun. Remember before I said you don't have to do anything until step 5? Number 5 is like grabbing your calendar, looking at it, seeing when can we go on a date. Period. Get a cup of coffee while you're right after you drop your kids off at daycare, before you have to be at work. Something that's only focused on fun, and take all the work out of it. Don't talk about any of this stuff that you just learned in this course. Just have fun together. If you'd love to meet me in person, come join me. We have a mountain retreat in the Poconos in October. My husband and I are doing. I'd love it if you could join us. So if that works out, awesome. If not, I'm actually going to recommend a game video that my husband and I made, where we teach 5 games for couples together, and that's going to be working on step number 5, having fun. There you have it. That's the world's fastest relationship course. Thanks so much for watching my video.